Welcome to HFY Galactic Stories, original science fiction tales, where humans face impossible odds, and the galaxy pays the price for its ignorance. Listen carefully. This is where legends are born. The warning. The Crythian Empire took over 47 star systems in a short time, like less than 300 years. The Crythian Empire was super strong. Nobody could beat them in the whole galaxy. The Crythian Empire had the ships, they were really fast, and the Crythian Empire had the best weapons, they were really powerful. The soldiers of the Crythian Empire were also really good at following orders. Supreme Commander Vexor was on the bridge of his ship, the Crimson Dominance. He was looking at a map of the stars that was like a hologram. He felt happy when he saw the map. The area that the Crythian Empire controlled was colored purple on the map, and it was getting bigger and bigger like a big stain across the galaxy. Vexor was really big and tall even when you compared him to others of his kind. The lights on the bridge made his skin look shiny. He had 4 eyes that could take in a lot of information really fast, even faster than most computers. Vexor had been in charge of making the Empire bigger for the 50 years, and in all that time he had never lost a fight. Every time another species got in Vexor's way, they gave up or they were destroyed. To Vexor it was just basic. The side with the power always came out on top. Vexor believed that if you had the army you would always win. Navigator Thress, who was second in command to Vexor, came up to him with a data tablet in her hands. Navigator Thress was a lot younger than Vexor. She had green scales, which meant she was from the northern part of their home world. Her tail kept moving forth like she was really nervous while she waited for Vexor to notice her. "Supreme Commander," she said in a voice. "We have gotten to the edge of Sector 793. The scouts found something that's not normal. They saw something with the scouts. The Supreme Commander needs to know about this thing the scouts detected in Sector 793. Vexor turned his head to face her. "What do you mean by unusual?" Thress turned on the tablet. It made a picture in the air that looked really real. The picture showed a lot of space with lots of things in it. Each of these things was sending out the same message on lots of different channels. Thress said, "We found something like a wall in space. There are thousands of machines that are all working together to make a border around a place that nobody has been to before. Each of these machines, the automated beacons, is sending out a warning to stay away." A warning? Vexor's mouth parts clicked together. That was probably him being amused. Who is giving this warning to Vexor? The language was completely foreign to our systems, Thress explained. Our computers had to work hard to figure out what it meant. They did this by looking at the math problems in the message. The message says it is from something called humanity. Vexor had never come across a species like this before. He had been fighting for a time and met all sorts of beings like the Zeltrons, with their bodies made of crystal, the Morphids who could change what they looked like, and the Hive Collective who all thought the same way. Humans? He did not know what that meant. What do these humans want? Thress touched the tablet again. A message showed up in glowing letters. "Warning to everyone who gets close to this line. On the side of this line is the land of Earth and the places that belong to it. The people of Earth are not looking for trouble. We really care about being in charge of our own things. Do not go past this line. Do not try to look around the space on the side. Do not send anything like machines or ships or weapons. We just want to be left alone. This is the time we are telling you this. The Earth and its colonies are serious about this. The people of Earth want to make it clear that we will not be bothered. The message from Earth and its colonies is simple. Do not cross this line. If you respect our borders, then we will leave you alone. You will never hear from us again. But if you cross our borders, then you will have to deal with the consequences of crossing our borders, and these consequences will be very bad for you. We are saying this in 17 languages. So turn back now. Do not cross our borders." The bridge was really quiet for a moment as the crew thought about what they heard. Then Vexor threw his head back. Started laughing. The sound of his laugh bounced off the metal walls. It was like hearing thunder. "They are talking about consequences that we do not get? The Crythian Empire is being threatened by these creatures?" The officers started laughing. The idea that some unknown species could be a threat to the officers was really silly. Vexor had heard warnings like this before. Simple societies often try to act when they are actually not strong. This is something that helps them survive, like when little animals make themselves look bigger than they really are. Vexor knew that the officers were not taking the warning seriously because they thought it was funny. The unknown species was not seen as a threat to the officers. "Supreme Commander," Thress said, her voice is really careful. "We should look into this some more before we do anything. These beacons are very old, they could be thousands of years. The thing is, they still work just fine. That tells me that the Supreme Commander, the people who made these beacons, they were really smart and had technology. The beacons are a deal, Supreme Commander, and we need to think about what they can do. Vexor waved a hand dismissively. Old technology means a civilization. The Vexor said that the civilization is probably extinct by now. These beacons are likely all that remains of the civilization. Vexor will proceed with the plan as Vexor had planned. But sir, the warning specifically states. I can read, Navigator, Vexor said, cutting in. I do not care about the threats of a dead species. The mission of the spaceship is to explore and claim all the systems in this sector that are worth claiming. The mission will not be stopped by recordings. Vexor and the crew will keep going no matter what. The old recordings do not scare the spaceship crew. They will not change the mission of Vexor and the crew. Thress looked down. Her tail kept moving back and forth because she was nervous. She had worked for Vexor for a time 10 whole years, and she knew not to disagree with him when he made up his mind. The beacons were still bothering her. They were put in the right places. They were spaced out just right. The people who built the beacons must have thought about it a lot. Planned everything carefully. The beacons really had her worried. She could not stop thinking about the beacons and how they seemed too perfect. Vexor turned to his weapons officer, a guy named Cross who had a lot of scars. Get rid of the beacons that are in our way. Make a path for us through this thing they call a barrier. Cross stopped for a second before he nodded his head. Yes, Supreme Commander. The Crimson Dominance moved forward. The Crimson Dominance had its weapon systems coming online now. The Crimson Dominance shot out lances of energy from its cannons. These lances of energy struck the beacon. The beacon exploded in a flash of light and debris. The Crimson Dominance did the thing to the next beacon. The Crimson Dominance also destroyed the one after that. The Crimson Dominance destroyed each beacon with efficiency. The Crimson Dominance was very good at destroying the beacons. When the fifth beacon shattered, something changed. The other beacons around them changed what they were sending out. They stopped sending the warning message. Started sending a new one. Thress quickly figured out what the new message said, and her scales turned pale as she read the words of the message. The beacons were now sending this message. The Supreme Commander needs to know that the message is different now. It says something. The message says you have been warned. This is what it says. You have chosen to ignore that warning. The Supreme Commander and everyone else has chosen to ignore it. The message also says that our fate is now sealed. This means that what is going to happen to us is already decided. The message says that we should hope our gods have mercy on our souls. This is because the people who sent the message will not have any mercy on us. They will not forgive us. The Supreme Commander should know that the message is very serious. It says, may our gods have mercy on our souls because the people who sent the message will have none. Vexor snorted. They are being dramatic to the end. The humans really had a flair for theater. I will give the humans that. Now we need to continue. I want to see what these mysterious beings were actually protecting. The humans and these mysterious beings are really interesting to me. I have to see what the mysterious beings were trying to keep safe. The fleet of 12 warships went past the beacon perimeter. The Crithian warships entered a part of space that had nothing in it. The sensors on the warships showed no planets and no asteroids. There were no stations either. The Crithian warships were surrounded by space and stars that were really far away. It looked like the humans had put a border around nothing. The Crithian warships were still moving through this space. Scan the sector, Vexor said. I think there is something in the sector that needs to be protected. The sector must have something protecting. The science teams worked for hours and hours sending out waves of sensor pulses. Then they looked at the data that came back. They found some systems that were deeper in the zone. When they looked at these planetary systems, they did not see anything. The science teams did not see any cities. They did not see any ships. They did not see any signs of life on these planetary systems. The planetary systems were empty worlds that went around their stars without making any noise. Cross said that maybe they just died out. Maybe they had a disease or a big fight. The beacons just kept going by themselves for a time after the people who made them were gone. The people who made the beacons were long dead. The beacons were still working. That was a good explanation. Vexor had seen this kind of thing happen before. Some civilizations do really well for a while and then they fall apart. The galaxy is full of ruins and leftover things from species that thought they would be around forever. Keep looking. Make a note of any worlds that people can live on. We can use this sector to help our empire grow. Vexor said this because the sector was a place to expand the empire. The empire was going to be a lot bigger with this sector as a part of it. Vexor wanted to make sure that the survey of the sector was complete. The survey was important for the empire. The empire needed to know about the sector. The sector was full of worlds that the empire could use. Vexor thought that the sector was a place for the empire to colonize. The empire would be happy to have this sector. Navigator Thress had a feeling that she just could not get rid of. She looked at the beacon network over and over trying to figure out how it worked. The beacons covered everything, making a circle around a big area of space that was about 50 light-years across. Inside this circle were 22 star systems. It was really amazing how it must have cost to build and take care of such a big network. Only a civilization with a lot of power and ability could have done something like this. Navigator Thress thought about the beacon network and how it was made. The fact that it was so big and covered much space was really something. Navigator Thress kept thinking about what kind of civilization could have built the beacon network. She also saw something. The beacons were not things that warned people. They were like sensors that always watched what was happening near them. They were talking to something. There were signals that were hard to find going deeper into the forbidden zone. The beacons had told someone or something that the Crithian fleet was there. Supreme Commander, she said fast. I think we should get out of here. The beacons are still working. The beacons are sending information somewhere. Let them send whatever they want, Vexor said. If there are any humans left alive there, I think the Crithian Empire should let them know that the Crithian Empire has arrived. The Crithian Empire is here now. Maybe the humans will come out. Surrender to the Crithian Empire without a fight. That would be a way for this to end. The Crithian Empire is waiting to see what the humans will do. 3 days went by. The fleet was still looking around the inner systems. They made a list of the planets they found, checked out the resources, and got ready to write reports about colonizing them. The whole time they did not run into anyone or anything. It was really quiet. The fleet did not hear a thing. This made them think that the sector was really empty. The fleet thought that nobody was living in the sector. On the day, the crew saw something on their long-range sensors. It was an object, and it was moving really fast towards the Vexor ships from the innermost system. Vexor told his ships to get ready for a fight. He was not worried. The other ship was alone. The Vexor ships were 12. The Vexor ships it would be over quickly. The fight would be very short. The object got closer and closer. The sensors on the fleet were able to get a good look at it. This thing was not a spaceship. It was a probe. The probe looked like the warning beacons that people use. It was smaller and shaped in a way that helped it move through space more easily. The probe came to a stop about 1,000 kilometers from the fleet and just stayed there, keeping a safe distance from the fleet. Call out to it, Vexor said. Let us find out if the computer is going to respond to Vexor. Vexor wants to know if anyone is actually listening to what Vexor's saying. The communication officer opened all channels. The Crithian fleet did not respond. The probe just hung there in space. It was silent. It was still. Then, without any warning, the probe turned on a projector. It made a holographic image in the space between the probe and the Crithian fleet. The picture showed a creature that was really different from any Vexor had seen. This human stood up on 2 legs. It had 2 arms and a head that looked weak compared to the Crithian build. The human skin was really smooth and pale. It did not have any scales or armor like the Crithians do. The human's eyes were small. They looked forward, and this human did not have a tail or any natural weapons that Vexor could see. This creature was a human. When the human spoke, the probe's computer translated the words into the Crithian language. Ambassador Chin of the Terran Defense Coalition said, I am Ambassador Chin of the Terran Defense Coalition. You crossed the Terran Defense Coalition border even though the Terran Defense Coalition gave you a warning. The Crithian people have destroyed the Terran Defense Coalition property. Invaded the Terran Defense Coalition sovereign space. The Terran Defense Coalition laws that the Terran Defense Coalition established 4,000 years ago say that the Crithian people are now a force. The Crithian people have 1 hour to go back beyond the Terran Defense Coalition line. If the Crithian people do not do what the Terran Defense Coalition says, the Terran Defense Coalition will respond with force. The Terran Defense Coalition is not talking about negotiating with the people. This is a statement of fact. The hologram started to flicker. Then it was gone. The probe turned around. It started to move really fast, and in just a few seconds the probe was no longer visible. Vexor stared at the empty space where it had been. Then he began to laugh again, though this time it sounded forced even to his own ears. The awakening. Supreme Commander Vexor was standing completely still on the bridge of the Crimson Dominance. He was staring at the space where the human probe had vanished. The Crimson Dominance crew was waiting around him in silence. They were all very tense. The ambassador had sent a message that was easy to understand. The message did not make any sense. The human species looked really fragile. So how could they be a threat to the Crithian Empire? The Crithian Empire was very powerful. The humans did not look like they were strong. They looked weak instead. Supreme Commander Vexor was thinking about the Crithian Empire and the human species. The human species looked fragile and weak. The ambassador said they were a threat to the Crithian Empire. Vexor said, We have 1 hour. He stopped talking for a moment. Then he said, "They are giving us 1 hour to get out of here to leave empty space." He looked at his officers and his 4 eyes looked at each of their faces. The Zeltron war machines, we fought them. The Morphid resistance, we beat them. The Hive Collective, they had billions of soldiers. We still defeated them. Now these people think they can scare the Zeltron war machines' enemies, us, with words? Navigator Thress stepped forward holding her tablet really tight. "Supreme Commander, I think we should use this hour to find out more about the humans. We do not know what the human military can do. The human beacon network seems good, so the humans must have good technology. Maybe we should find out more about the military and the human technology and the human beacon network, because we know very little about the humans and their military capabilities and their technology. The humans might be stronger than we think. We need to know more about the human military and the human beacon network before we do anything." Navigator Thress looked at the Supreme Commander waiting for a response about the humans and their military. "We should show these people what happens when they threaten the Crithian Empire," Vexor said, cutting in. The way he spoke made it clear he was in charge. "Tell all the ships to get ready. We are going to form a line and move into the system. If these humans want to fight the Crithian Empire, we'll give them a fight they will never forget. We will show them the power of the Crithian Empire. Make sure they remember it." Cross, the weapons officer, went to his station. He did this quickly and smoothly because he had a lot of practice. The Crithian fleet had 12 warships. These warships of the Crithian fleet moved into an attack formation. The Crithian fleet used this formation times before and it always worked. The Crimson Dominance was the warship to move. The Crimson Dominance had big engines. These big engines of the Crimson Dominance were burning brightly. The Crimson Dominance was moving faster and faster into the territory that belonged to humans. The Crithian fleet, with its 12 warships, was following the Crimson Dominance. 30 minutes went by. Then 45 minutes passed. The fleet got closer to the planet in the system that is closest to the sun. This planet is blue and green. It looks like a great place for life to exist. The machines that help us find things told us that this planet has everything that living things need to survive. When we looked at the planet with our special tools, we did not see any cities. We did not see any stations floating around the planet. We did not see any machines that are meant to protect the planet. The planet looked empty like all the other planets that the fleet visited before. The fleet saw that the fourth planet was really quiet like the others. "This is really strange," Thress said, looking at her displays. She thought it was a place for people to live. For some reason it was just sitting there empty. Thress wondered why they were being so careful to guard the space around the planet Earth when there was nothing on the planet Earth. Why would they guard the space around the planet so carefully? The planet Earth was perfect for people to live on. Vexor said, "They might not be as many as they say they are. They might be waiting for us to go away because we are being careful." As the hour came to an end, something strange occurred. The area around the fleet started to shake and get all wavy. Vexor's sensors were going crazy, sending out warnings because huge objects were suddenly showing up out of air. These objects did not come from then light travel, which is how spaceships usually move. They did not come from any direction either. The Crithian fleet sensors just could not figure out where they came from. It was like the objects were always there. The Crithian sensors could not see them because of some kind of technology that the Crithians did not know about. The objects just was really weird. The Crithian fleet was surrounded by 30 ships. These ships were really cool. Had sharp edges. They were made carefully, which made the Crithian vessels look old and badly made. The 30 ships were smaller than the Crimson Dominance. The way light bounced off their metal bodies made it seem like they could protect themselves very well. The 30 ships also had their guns ready. They were already pointing at the Crithian fleet. "Battle stations!" Vexor yelled loud. All of the ships start shooting. The Crithian fleet used their powerful plasma cannons. The Crithian plasma cannons were so strong that they had melted mountains and made oceans boil on the worlds that the Crithian fleet had taken over. The Crithian plasma cannons had even torn through the outer layers of enemy warships like they were made of paper. When the Crithian plasma cannons hit the vessels, they hit them with so much force that they could have turned small moons into vapor. The Crithian plasma cannons were really that powerful. The human ships just kept on going. The plasma hit their shields. It looked really cool, like a big show of light. It did not hurt the ships at all. None of the ships got damaged, not even a little bit. The human ships were completely fine. They did not have any scratches on them. Thress felt ice forming in her blood. She said to the Supreme Commander, "Their defensive technology is really strong. It is stronger than anything we have seen before. I think we should leave now." "No," Vexor said in a tone. "We need to launch the missiles. Get the mass drivers ready. We have to hit them with the missiles and the mass drivers and everything else we have. We are going to use all of our missiles and all of our mass drivers to attack them. The missiles and the mass drivers are going to hit them hard. The Crithian fleet fired again. This time they used everything they had. They shot hundreds of missiles. These missiles were moving really fast. The Crithian fleet also used projectiles that were going so fast they were almost as quick as light. They even used energy weapons that they had been saving for a big fight. The area between the two fleets was filled with explosions and destruction. The Crithian fleet and their enemies were surrounded by a storm of fire. The human ships moved. These human ships did not try to dodge or evade. The human ships just changed their position fast and accurately, so every single one of the Crithian weapons missed the human ships. The missiles exploded without hitting anything in space. The kinetic rounds went through the areas where the human ships were a few milliseconds before. The energy weapons hit nothing but space. The humans fired back at the Crithians. The humans used some strange weapons that the Crithians had never seen before. These weapons sent out beams of white light. The Crithians saw that these beams of white light did not make a big explosion or start a fire. They just made things disappear. When the beams of white light hit the Crithian shields, the shields were gone. It was like the shields never existed. When the beams of white light hit the metal outside the Crithian ships, the metal was gone too. There was no metal flying around and no smoke. The metal just was not there anymore. The Crithians saw nothing but space where the metal used to be. The warship Eternal Conquest was the warship to die. It got hit by a beam that cut right through the middle of the Eternal Conquest. Then the two halves of the Eternal Conquest just stopped working. The life support on the Eternal Conquest failed. The engines on the Eternal Conquest went dark too. This meant that 2,000 Crithian warriors on the Eternal Conquest died in a few seconds. The Eternal Conquest became a tomb that was floating in the space. Vexor shouted maneuvers, but the ships he had were not fast enough. The enemy fired another beam and another one of the ships was gone. This time it was the Glory. Then it was the Scaled Vengeance. The Crithian ships had taken over planets, but now they were being destroyed very easily. The Crithian ships were being destroyed one by one. Cross turned away from the place where he controlled the weapons. He was really scared. His scales looked pale. Supreme Commander, our weapons are not working all. The other side is targeting us perfectly. We are not going to win this fight. The Supreme Commander needs to know that our weapons are totally useless against them. The other side is just too good at targeting us. Cross said this to the Supreme Commander because he wanted him to know that our weapons cannot hurt them. Cross was talking about the weapons that he was in charge of. He was telling the Supreme Commander that they were not going to help us win. The fight was not going in our favor because the other side had better targeting. Cross was trying to tell the Supreme Commander that we were in trouble. Retreat. Vexor finally shouted. All ships, give the engines all the power they can handle. We need to get out of here. We need to get out now with all the ships. The ships have to move, so let us get the ships out of here. The other 9 Crithian warships turned around. Went back towards the boundary line. These Crithian warships were really moving fast. The engines of the warships were working very hard, making the Crithian warships go very fast. This would have been very impressive if they were fighting against any enemy. The human ships were able to keep up with the Crithian warships easily. The human ships stayed in their formation around the warships that were trying to get away, like animals that hunt are controlling the animals they are going to eat. The human ships were like predators and the Crithian warships were like the prey. Another white beam shot out. The burning sky was gone. There were 8 ships left now. Then the Iron Fang was destroyed too. Now there were 7 ships. The humans were taking out the Crithian ships one by one. They were taking their time doing it. The humans were making it very clear that the Crithians were only alive because the humans were letting them be. Thress whispered, "Why do they not just destroy us right now? They have the power to do it," Thress said. Vexor got it. Knowing this was even worse than dying right away. The humans were trying to make a point. They were showing everyone that they are really in charge. They wanted people to live through this and go back to tell others what happens when you do not listen to what the humans say. The humans were making it clear that they will not be ignored, and Vexor understood that the humans were serious about this. The humans were sending a message. Vexor knew that this message was meant for everyone to hear. The boundary line showed up on the sensors of the ships. The Crithian ships had destroyed a field of beacons when they came in. Now 5 Crithian ships went back to space. This was half of the Crithian fleet that had entered human territory. The Crithian fleet had entered territory with a lot of confidence. The human ships stopped at the boundary line and did not go any further. Then one ship went ahead. Showed another picture that was not really there. This picture was of Ambassador Chin. He was the human who had told them to be careful before. Ambassador Chin looked like he might break easily. He was the one talking to them again. Chin said this in a voice, "We told you to respect the borders of our space." He went on to say, "You did not listen to us." 7 of the 12 ships that belonged to them were destroyed. This meant that 7,000 of their people were killed. Chin explained that this was what happened when they did not listen to the warnings. He told them that they had to go to their empire and tell their leaders what happened. The people of Earth just want to be left alone and live in peace. They have decided that this part of space belongs to them. They will do whatever it takes to protect it from anyone who tries to enter. Chin also said that they have the technology to stay hidden from the sensors of spaceships. They can remain hidden. That is what they will do to keep their space safe. We have the weapons that can destroy your fleets. We can wait for a long time, even another 4,000 years if that is what it takes. We will not put up with anyone violating the sovereignty of our nation. The sovereignty of our nation is very important to us. We will do what it takes to protect it. We will not tolerate any violations of the sovereignty of our nation. Chin stopped talking for a moment. Then he spoke again. His voice was very serious. It scared Vexor. Vexor's scales felt weird because of this fear. Chin said, "You have taken over 47 systems. You have hurt a lot of people. Destroyed their homes. You think you are the strongest in the galaxy. You have never met humanity before. Humanity is different from the people you have beaten. Humanity does not give up easily. Humanity does not say sorry. Give in. Humanity never forgets what happens to them." Chin was talking about humanity. What humanity is like. He wanted Vexor to know that humanity is not afraid of them. Humanity is strong. We'll fight back. Chin said all this because he wanted Vexor to understand that humanity is not like the others. Humanity will remember what Vexor's empire does to them. The hologram changed, showing pictures that made Thres gasp. There were cities floating in space, and each city was bigger than the Crithian home world. I saw thousands of ships. They were hidden in places the Crithians did not even know were there. The hologram showed weapons that could break planets and soldiers wearing armor that made them look like gods walking around. All of these things, the cities and the ships and the weapons and the soldiers, had been here the time watching and waiting, but they were hidden so the Crithians could not see them. The Crithians had no idea all of this was going on. We were the species in this region to achieve faster than light travel, Chin continued. We went to hundreds of systems. They were empty. The systems were just sitting there with no one in them. We could have taken them all for ourselves. We could have built an empire that went across many stars. We learned something from our history. The thing we learned is that empires always fall apart. When people have power, they often do things. The people who are strong often hurt the people who are weak. So we decided to do something. We decided to be alone. We chose isolation. The isolation was our choice. We decided to draw a line in space and say, "This is far as we will go and we will not go any further." We drew a line in space and that is our limit. We will not cross the line in space. The pictures changed again, showing people building the beacon network. There were a lot of factories that worked automatically to build the warning devices. This took a long time, even hundreds of years. Humans worked together. They were very patient and dedicated. It is hard to believe that humans could do this because they seem weak. The beacon network is something that humans made. It is very important that the beacon network was built by humans. Chin said to them, "We have seen the human empire grow and get bigger. We have seen the human empire take over places. We knew it was a matter of time before the human empire reached our borders. We were hoping that our warnings to the human empire would be enough. We wanted the human empire to respect our wish to be left alone. The human empire did not listen to our warnings. The human empire chose to be violent and invade us instead. So now the human empire knows the truth. The human empire needs to know that humanity is still alive. The human empire should know that we are not weak. The human empire should know that we do not care about the human empire or its wars. We just want to be left alone and have some peace. What we are looking for is to have a life without any trouble. All we want is to be left in peace." The image of Chin disappeared. What Chin said was heard by everyone. Chin told them to go to where they came from. Chin said they should tell the people in charge what they saw. Chin wanted them to know that the border is not to be crossed. Chin said if another group of ships comes over, there will be no one left alive. Chin made it clear that this was their warning. Chin will not say it again. The border is absolute, Chin said, and the next fleet will not be given any mercy, Chin warned. The human ships all turned at the time and then they were gone. They disappeared back into the hidden place they used to stay hidden. Now the space around the Crithian vessels that did not get destroyed was empty again. It felt like the whole fight was a bad dream. The human ships were really good at hiding. Now they were gone again. Vexor sat back in his command chair, his 4 eyes looking at nothing in particular. For 50 years he had been winning battles. He had never turned his back on a fight. He had never lost a battle before. Now Vexor felt scared. The thought that his empire with all its power had been very close to being destroyed without realizing it was a frightening one. Vexor's empire had always been strong. Now he was not so sure. Navigator Thress walked up to him slowly. "Supreme Commander, what do you want us to do?" Navigator Thress said this because he wanted to know what the Supreme Commander's orders were for the Supreme Commander's team. The Supreme Commander was in charge, so Navigator Thress needed to hear from the Supreme Commander. Vexor was quiet for a long time. Then he talked in a voice that sounded really old and really tired. "Set the course for Crithian Prime. Go fast as we can. We have a message to deliver to Crithian Prime." The 5 surviving warships turned around. Started the long trip back home. Behind the 5 surviving warships, the beacon network began to send out its warning again, sending it out to the empty space where the 7 Crithian warships had been completely destroyed. The message from the beacon network was really simple and easy to understand. The message was about the Crithian vessels. "Do not go past this line. This is the time we will tell you to stay back. The perimeter is not to be crossed. You have been warned." The Crithian Empire will definitely remember those words for a long time. They will put a warning sign on their maps to show that this place is not safe. The Crithian Empire will tell stories about the Crithian Empire encountering ghost ships that just show up out of nowhere and these powerful white beams that can make things disappear. The Crithian Empire will teach their kids about the species that just wants to be left alone by the Crithian Empire. The people would never cross that border again. They would always remember that border. They would never go near it again. The border was something that they would never cross again. In the hidden cities within human space, Ambassador Chin filed his report. He was talking about the Ambassador Chin report. Another species had tested the boundary of space. The species had learned the cost of testing the boundary. Ambassador Chin felt no pride in the deaths that happened because of this. He only felt a sadness that some civilizations like this species never learned until it was too late for the species. The Ambassador Chin report was about the species in human space. People had decided that peace was more important than being in charge, and they wanted to be left alone than try to control everything. They were also getting ready for the day when someone would make them fight back. The warning signals, the beacons would keep sending out their message. The secret groups of ships, the hidden fleets would keep watching all the time. The line that separated them from others, the boundary, would stay unchanged. The galaxy is really big. It has a lot of amazing things in it. People just want a part of the galaxy to call their own place. Is that really too much for the people to want? The galaxy is so huge. People just want a small corner of the galaxy. It seems that, for some species, this was the case. Those species figured it out. One way or another, all of the